morning. Today I'd like to discuss misconceptions about the metaverse. There's a good chance that you're wrong about what you believe the metaverse is. That's because everybody is wrong, including me. Hi, I'm Jacob Williams, and I work for a company called Accenture. I'm on the Web3 and Metaverse strategy team. And Accenture is one of the world's largest technology and consulting companies, serving 91 of the Fortune Global 100 and around 400 of the Fortune Global 500, so a huge base of some of the biggest brands in the world. And we're working to bring the metaverse to these companies. Accenture is one of the companies bringing the largest capital and human resources investments into the metaverse. A quick Google search for metaverse for your favorite industry will yield somewhere between a few 100,000 to a few 100 million results, which speaks to, at minimum, the scope of the opportunity, if not its value. But why is the value of something that seems to have an application for everyone so hotly debated? Why is it so hard to predict the future of technology? Rather than answer that question directly, I'd like to give you an example. In 2006, every smartphone looked like this. Manufacturers were convinced that this is what consumers needed if they wanted to access the internet, if they wanted to send emails or send long messages to their friends. They wanted a physical, tactile keyboard. Of course, we know this was not ultimately the vision that would become the correct view of what the smartphone would be. That crown went to, of course, this. The iPhone only had one button, and some of you may recall, this was a contentious decision. It was not taken for granted that this was right. In fact, Apple's stock fell on the announcement of this device, and news all around the world came out debating, from the New York Times to NPR to the Wall Street Journal, debating this decision to eliminate a physical keypad in favor of a virtual one. Consumers also weren't convinced. But today, if we look at the modern phone, they're much larger, of course, and somebody in 2007 could have never pictured this phone on the right. They couldn't have pictured something that was edge-to-edge screen, and this phone, the ZTE Axon 40 Pro, has a fingerprint scanner and a camera, a front-facing camera, underneath the display. Users in 2007 could have never pictured that the computational photography systems baked into these phones would completely collapse the consumer camera market by more than 90% since 2010. They could not have imagined that we would spend 3 to 6 hours on average, all of us, on our phones every single day. And they definitely would not have been able to envision the applications that we now use on a daily basis, like being able to call our friends with a tap and being able to FaceTime with them on a supercomputer in our hands, or having a virtual assistant call a local restaurant and make a reservation for you. So, what's the cause of that kind of lack of vision or misjudgment of what this thing is? Where does the breakdown happen between philosophy and form? Well, author Matt Ball refers to something that he calls recursive innovation as one of the reasons why this takes place. When a new invention is created, first movers try to bring it to the market first, and early adopters are eager to try it. They try out the new behaviors that are expected of them with this new technology. But of course they have complaints, because no first invention is perfect. They make those complaints, they're loud about it on the internet, and the builders and the investors in this invention take notice. They try to improve the product because they want to obviously sell more of what they've built. But as a byproduct of improving, new ideas spring forth. Sometimes those ideas are related to the first invention, sometimes they're brand new inventions. Sometimes we take the technology into a completely different direction because of an inspiration someone had from the first invention. This cycle can continue for hundreds of years when the scope and the reach of a particular invention is applicable to all humanity. Here's an example. On the left are Galileo Galilei's telescopes. By the end of his tweaking with the designs, he was able to achieve a 23x magnification of vision. And that, for the first time, brought the rings of Saturn, which are roughly 900 billion miles away, into view for the first time for humanity. On the left, of course, or sorry, on the right, is the James Webb Space Telescope, which is capable of viewing 81.9 trillion miles into space, 400 years later. So, recursive innovation can bring unexpected changes in technology, and the ultimate future of a technology can be very, very different than what we currently imagine it to be. That's why we're so often wrong about the future of technology. We can still draw, it's a bit of a cliche now, especially in Web3, but we can draw analogs to the metaverse with the definition of the internet. If you read this, you'll notice that we're primarily talking about the reach, private, public, academic, business, and government networks from local to global in scope, and a broad array of wireless and optical technologies. Then we start talking about the technologies, information resources and services, hypertext, applications of the World Wide Web, email, telephony, and file sharing. All of us can look at this definition and come up with an analog for our favorite applications. But if you were to tell someone in 1995 that a use case of the internet that billions of people would adopt would be calling a taxi, but instead of calling a taxi, a random stranger picks you up in their personal Toyota Corolla for some extra cash on the weekend. Their first rebuttal would be, why would you get in a stranger's car? And the second rebuttal would be, why do you need the internet for that? Because speed dial to call a cab is one tap. That kind of fixed thinking is being applied right now to the metaverse. So that's, all of this level setting is to illustrate 2 points. One, that we should never underestimate the improvement of technology. And two, that we should never underestimate humanity finding the best use for its tools. So with that out of the way, let's talk about what the metaverse is not. It is not low polygon environments, cringy avatars, and it is not a monopoly that can be owned by one company. It is not bulky headsets that leave marks on your face or are sweaty, and it is not chaotic VR chat rooms that look like a Fisher-Price playground or legless, bean-headed avatars. But here's the thing, this isn't Mark Zuckerberg's vision of the metaverse either. This is just phase 0 or even earlier of where this technology is headed. And if you were to query some of the leaders in technology in the world right now, their visions of the metaverse are much grander. They see it as a sea change in computing, the next chapter of the internet, and a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity of the future world economy. My favorite definition is down here on the bottom right, Matthew Ball's definition. It's a bit technical, so we won't get into it here, but I'd highly advise reading his book, which I'll show you at the end. This is Accenture's definition. It's an evolution of the internet that enables us to move beyond browsing to inhabiting a persistent shared experience that spans the spectrum of our real world to a fully virtual world and in between. That's a continuum or a spectrum of lived reality. From consumer to worker and across enterprise, from reality to virtual and back seamlessly, 2D to 3D, a host of technologies involved, just like the internet, starting today and evolving far into the future as a continuum. So let's talk about the tech stack, because that's how we define the internet, is by its tech stack, because the use cases and the applications are so far-reaching. XR, as we all know, is a blend of augmented reality experiences and immersive, fully virtual experiences, and a blend of the two, which we've begun to tap, but we've not yet seen hardware capable enough to deliver both in real time. Graphics engines, which are starting to rival our lived reality in terms of fidelity. Digitally native identity that enables us to transact anonymously and safely with personal information, including government IDs. Fungible tokens, digitally native currencies, NFTs, that enable entirely new economies of value, total new worlds of streams of value to each other, between peers and between individuals and institutions. Artificial intelligence, which is bringing all kinds of new use cases every year. There's been a viral sensation this year with word-generated art, and I expect that trend to continue with media and many other things being augmented by these tools. Digital twins, which enable controlled states of both a real object and a digital object. I think this is actually not so understood by many people. A true digital twin when manipulated, will manipulate its counterpart in real life or in a virtual space. If you manipulate a lever on a real machine, its digital twin will manipulate, and vice versa. That has massive applications in manufacturing and supply chain, really in a high variety of industries. Cloud compute and 5G, bringing high-fidelity experiences to consumer-grade devices with streaming. IoT and edge compute, bringing decision-making and analysis and computation where something physical is happening. So what does that take us to? When these things are combined, what do we get? I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is the MetaConnect 2022 avatar, codec avatar. And what you'll see here is that she's scanning her face with a regular smartphone, an iPhone, and the result is an avatar that looks much closer to a real person than anything we saw before. This is here now. We are much further along to a true-to-life fidelity of these avatars than most people seem to believe. When we interact with our families from across the world in the metaverse, it will feel real. It will feel like we're in the room with the people we're speaking to. I think the applications of this are huge. The headsets will eventually be able to track our most minute facial expressions and body language, and what that brings to a conversation between people is truly unspeakable in value. The headsets will dramatically improve. We won't have these bulky headsets that cover up all of our face and leave marks and are sweaty. They're going to be sleek, and they're going to be a blend of augmented reality and virtual reality in one headset. Like we carry our smartphones today, the smartphone likely will be eliminated in favor of something like this that looks like a pair of glasses. And I would guess that even this would be something of a middle state, and the end state would probably look a lot more like a regular pair of sunglasses. Some of the best use cases of the metaverse will never be able to replicate or replace our real-world experiences, but they're not always intended to. But what they will be is enhancements to our daily lives when we want it, where we want it, and how we want it. It will be commonplace to see enhanced environments like these through your viewport, and you'll be able to tune to the channels of those things that you want to see. In the same way that we have ad blockers today, your vision will not be clouded by advertisements when you walk through a cityscape in your glasses. As I was preparing for this, I spent some time just dreaming about some of the kind of future state of what's possible in the Internet of Presence. And some of these use cases are really powerful. And some are live right now, such as look and feel shopping. Have you ever bought something on Amazon or an online retailer and you receive it in person and it's not the same size you expected, it has a hole in the wrong spot, whatever it is? Imagine being able to hold it in your hands first. Imagine being able to watch every basketball game from courtside. Imagine you're a university student and a teacher, a professor, gives a lecture, and then you're learning about how cells work in your body, and then you transport yourself, the whole class, together into a human body, into a cell, and you can see it with your own two eyes. That's here right now. So I hope that this is truly a tip of the iceberg for what is possible when the fidelity of these experiences reaches where it is inevitably headed. And I hope that this will serve as inspiration for you today, because the metaverse is not going to build itself. It's up to us. It's up to us in this room to build this. And the metaverse is truly the only thing we'll come close to in our lifetime to a lived multiverse, Doctor Strange style, like a comic book, where you can transport yourself like you're scrolling through TikTok or YouTube to a completely different universe, a completely different world, and experience whatever you want. Anything is possible in a virtual space, but we have to build it. So that's all for my time today. I mentioned this book by Matthew Ball. It's called The Metaverse and How It Will Revolutionize Everything. It is fantastic. It is truly something that I think anybody who is metaverse curious, even a professional, should read. It's eye-opening in a lot of ways, and it will definitely inspire new ideas. I think that he's a thought leader for thought leaders, and it's truly something that I highly advise. I owe him a great debt for a lot of the content in this presentation. And if you'd like to connect with me, there's my information. I would love to chat about this with any of you and just share some ideas. Thank you very much.